If you are struggling with depression, you are not alone. An estimated 1 in 4 of us will be affected by this cruel illness at some point in our lives. Depression steals things that feel like they belong to us. Our sleep, our sense of enjoyment. People describe living behind a wall of glass. Our motivation goes, even our appetite. It blocks access to good memories, but lets bad ones flood us. We look back, things are black. In the present day, things seem to demand a huge effort. It's no wonder people talk in terms of what's the point in anything. Does this feel like it's happening to you or someone you care about? Well, hold tight. You're in the right place to learn how CBT can offer a lifeline. Let's start thinking about emotions. People come to therapy because they're dealing with unpleasant emotions, such as anxiety, powerlessness, anger, or depression. Emotions are big, powerful states, and people may say to you, you don't need to feel depressed, or even worse, snap out of it. Now, they may mean well, but they just don't get how hard it is to do so. I mean, if you could have done that already, you probably would have done so, and would probably not be watching this video. So that's the bad news. The good news is that we can make a difference to other parts of ourselves, namely how we are thinking, what we are doing, and what is going on in our body. And I would work using this model. If the others are working in our favour, thoughts, behaviours, physical reaction, the emotions have to come into line. So I'm going to start with talking about the cognitions and the behaviour in CBT, but also another B for the body, what's going on inside our physical bodies. Now, when dealing with depression, I prefer to think not of CBT, but of BBC, body, behaviour, cognitions, as I focus on the body and then the behaviours first, and only then work with cognitions. So thinking about the body. The clinical guidelines for treating depression follow research on the best outcomes by recommending combining CBT and antidepressant medication if the depression is severe enough. So we call it a pills and skills approach. There are many routes into depression. It could be a reaction to life events such as losses or even the birth of a baby, following stresses or a difficult childhood. But it is widely believed that depression is linked to a low level of serotonin in the brain, and that's the route out. Now, I would love to be able to talk you out of having low levels of serotonin in the brain, but it would be a bit like me trying to talk you out of having hay fever. While I might be able to teach you skills to avoid hay fever inducing situations or manage your symptoms, if it's severe enough, you're going to need an antihistamine. Likewise with antidepressants. The pills can be a literal lifesaver, particularly if you're having ideas of hurting yourself or taking steps to end your life. The CBT will teach you these skills to manage your depression, skills that the pills cannot do. But the pills can often provide enough symptom relief to help you learning the skills. If you are experiencing suicidal thoughts currently, you really must let someone else know. Please go to your GP, or if they feel particularly compelling, go to A&E. You can call the Samaritans anytime, day or night, on 116 123, or you can text SHOUT to the crisis text line 85258. For anyone with depression, it's important to stay close to your GP throughout your recovery. Google serotonin and you'll find a definition like happy hormone. So sounds like an optional extra, like a glass of wine on a Friday night, right? But of course it's a bit more complicated than that. Serotonin is involved in very basic bread and butter processes, like sending us to sleep all night, waking us up feeling refreshed, making us feel hungry and motivated to seek food, and then satisfied and able to stop eating when we are full, or allowing us to concentrate on our food. These processes are not optional extras, more about keeping the show on the road. So we can see, can't we, that if these basic processes are not working, we're not going to feel ongoing contentment. When they go awry, we can quickly start to feel pretty unhappy. So we could view depression as a bully that has decided, for its own reasons, that you are not going out into the world by robbing you of sleep, motivation, energy, making the things you used to enjoy feel flat and pointless. And the key thing here is to see depression as a bully, and then deciding we are not going to let it dictate to us what we do. So that brings us on to behavioural activation. The first line of fighting back that CBT encourages is called behavioural activation. We're designed to be active beings in the world. We feel good if we're out doing things. So we're trying to reverse engineer those good feelings by doing again the things that we would have carried on doing if we'd never had the depression in the first place, even though we don't feel like doing it. And even though it may not feel as great as it used to, even if we do it. You know, if we can win 10 minutes back of good feeling regularly, that's a win against the depression bully. So specific behaviours call for other feel-good hormones, and we need these to work harder if our serotonin is offline. And your CBT therapist will encourage you to be doing things to give you boosts from dopamine, oxytocin, and endorphins. You may have heard of these. Let's start with the easy one, endorphins. This is nature's painkiller. GPs prescribe exercise for depression nowadays, with good reason, because 20 minutes of brisk exercise can bring on that runner's high feeling that you may be familiar with. And that can have long-lasting effects on mood throughout the day on which the exercise is taken. The other two come on and go off. So we need to do lots of little things throughout the day that give us little hits of feel-good hormone. Dopamine says, get out on the planet and do stuff. And then once we've done so, it says, yay, look at me doing stuff on the planet. So you'll need to work with your therapist to find 10 activities a day that give you a sense of achievement, however small. So on a bad day, brushing your hair or getting out of bed might be a win. And on a better day, getting on with some work. It's very important at this point to talk to yourself in an encouraging way, such as, I'm fighting back against depression, rather than in a demeaning way like, mate, anyone can brush their hair. The next one, oxytocin, is the cuddle hormone, driving us to get closer to other warm human beings, ideally to get together, make a baby and look after him or her. So try and lean on others, your partner, your friends, your family. You're not being selfish because as they boost your oxytocin, you will be boosting theirs.
Harley Therapy, the UK's leading experts in therapy and mental health care, right here in London or online.
You know, even if you are alone, and we know that depression may well want you to isolate yourself, you can boost this in yourself by seeking out nice things for your physical body. Its skin, its muscles, your eyes, ears, nose, and taste buds. Again, it might be small things like having a bath, making a playlist that reminds you of when you used to dance, even looking for comedy clips on YouTube. Because we're going to need you to do 10 of these every day too. So your CBT therapist is going to be urging you to do these things, recognizing that it might not be easy, as the first step into changing your neurochemical mix and giving you that felt sense of small improvements. And this is to encourage you to know that you are not your depression. It may be visiting you right now in order to bully you, but you can fight back. Lastly, cognitions. So thoughts or how we're talking to ourselves. You may have noticed I've already mentioned phrases such as treat depression as a bully and I'm fighting back even though I don't feel like it. These are both examples of making a conscious effort to speak to ourselves in an encouraging way. CBT invites us to step back and notice how our self-talk or inner dialogue can be negative and self-critical. You know, with depression, we can be under attack from our body with the low serotonin, from our behaviour being deactivated, and also a stream of thoughts like, I'm useless, others don't like me, things can really only get worse. Critics of CBT say, it's just telling me my thoughts are wrong. That would be particularly hard if depression is already telling you about so many other things that are wrong with you. But that's not what CBT is aiming to do. It's aiming to ascertain whether our inner voice is helping us, keeping us stuck, or dragging us down, and to tinker or amend with it accordingly. Let me tell you a story. Imagine you're the goalkeeper for your favourite football or other sports team, and you've got a big match coming up. Your coach, an old school coach, comes out and says to you, look, this match is vital. You've messed up so often before, so for goodness sake, don't mess up this time, okay? So how would you feel? Ashamed? Humiliated? Terrified? And how would your performance be affected? Yeah, not in a good way, I guess. So let's send Coach A off the pitch. And let's send out Coach B. He's a kind of young Australian surf dude type, and he strolls on and says, hey, everything's going to be great. See you at half time. How might you feel now? At least not ashamed or terrified, but he really gave you no guidance as to how everything will be okay. So he's also less than helpful. So, CBT is not Coach A. Your inner voice is probably giving you enough of him anyway. But it's not Coach B either. We're not simply going to tell you just think positively and everything will be fine. We know life is pretty tough at this time, and that thinking of unicorns is just not going to work. So instead, your therapist will show you ways to be a bit more like Coach C, who comes out and says, right behind you, we know you already have some great skills. You always know whether the ball is coming from the left or the right. But to stop more shots, you might want to stretch your arms more or even jump to increase your chances. Let's give this a go and we'll review at half time. So, how will CBT do that? This is called cognitive restructuring. By noticing what we are saying to ourselves, we can check in whether that dialogue is kind, is true, and is helpful. If it's not, it's what we call an automatic negative thought. So we've got a little diagram with some automatic negative thoughts, or ants with their little machine guns. So ants are guaranteed to have a downward impact on our mood. We can challenge these ants in two ways. Firstly, by looking at the content of the thought. Is this really true? Is there any evidence going the other way? What evidence am I overlooking? And what might be a more balanced thought? And we call those capability affirming thoughts. So here are some nice cats. No machine guns. People prefer cats to ants. Secondly, we can challenge these by looking at the process of our thoughts. Would I say exactly that to my best friend if they were in the same situation as me? Generally, we find people are much kinder, much more encouraging to other people than to themselves. So what would I say to them? And if that is kinder and more encouraging, maybe I could start saying that to myself. Am I always predicting bad things will happen? How does that make me feel right now, ahead of time, ahead of them happening? How accurate are my predictions? Let's check them out. We might need to make some better predictions or keep an open mind as to the future. We call this particular habit fortune telling. Alternatively, am I always working on an assumption that people don't like me, just looking at their faces without checking it out? We call this one mind reading. Now, if we can allow the possibility that our thoughts are not always facts, then we've got something to work with. Sounds simple, right? Yeah, the CBT is very simple and some say almost common sense. However, it's also very difficult because these thinking patterns have become ingrained and it will take conscious effort to check, create new thought patterns and practice these new ones often enough that they become our new default. But the good news, it can be done. We retain brain plasticity and ability to learn throughout our life. So practice makes better. Our job is to turn you into your own CBT therapist as quickly as possible. So with depression, that will mean assessing whether medication is needed, introducing behavioural activation, and helping you make sure that your self-talk is as helpful as encouraging, and encouraging these new changes until you can maintain them on your own.
Subscribe for more insights from the experts at Harley Therapy, and don't miss our next video.